Hello everybody, this is Matt Shu from Upright Health, and today I'm here in beautiful Berlin, as you can see from this 100% authentic background behind me. The reason I am here in Berlin is to demonstrate and to talk about an example of the way our bodies can be taught and how our bodies can be controlled if we use some conscious effort. So the reason I am talking with this somewhat okay German accent is because many years ago I actually studied German and I lived in Germany for a very short period of time, and I listened to a lot of German music. And so what I noticed was that there was a certain way that I would talk when I was speaking German in order to create sounds that were more German sounding. And I also realized that if I could take conscious control of that same movement pattern with my tongue and my mouth, then I could sound like a German speaking English. So that skill has kind of deteriorated a little bit, but I can still do it somewhat. And so the reason I bring it up is because when we're thinking about the way we move and the way we stand, there are a lot of unconscious patterns going on. There's a lot of unconscious programming that is working, that is at play. So, when you're speaking, you don't really think about the way you use your mouth. You don't really think about the way you use your tongue or your lips. You just pick those things up over time. And that's the same way we learn how to move oftentimes. Nobody really teaches us exactly how we should run and catch that ball. Nobody really dials into the details of how we bend over and pick something up. So as we grow up, we just sort of do what works, and that's how we continue to do it for the rest of our lives. Sometimes we pick up bad habits. So, I've seen examples where people basically learned how to walk from their parents, and they never relearned how to walk better. So there was actually a situation years ago where I had a husband and a wife come to visit me, and I was just watching the husband walk, and I pointed out to the wife, like, "Hey, did you notice that his leg kind of swings out to the side like this? And at every step he takes, his right leg kind of goes out to the side, and he has to swing his hip around." And his wife said, "Oh yeah, I can see that." "Oh my God." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Our 3-year-old son has started walking like that," right? So the reason her husband was walking like that was because of a soccer injury, but the son was imitating the dad and walking with this little limp despite having never had a soccer injury. So that's one of those moments where you realize, wow, we're learning right from the very beginning, and we don't know how these things are being patterned. And these patterns that we're learning are going to drastically affect the way our bodies can and cannot move over long periods of time. Taking it back to speech, if you think about the way you use your mouth, I mentioned, we're using unconscious patterns. That's a big issue for people who are learning second languages, usually, right? So there are some people who are just really good at adopting new movement patterns with their mouths, but for a lot of people, it's really hard to make sounds that don't exist in their primary language. So a perfect example for English speakers, and I'm assuming many of you are English speakers. Perfect example between German and English is the sound of th, or like the, or tooth, something like that. German speakers often have a lot of trouble saying things like tooth because th is not really a naturally occurring sound in German. So a lot of times what will happen is a compensation or a substitution. So instead of saying tooth, you'll hear tooth, because is a pretty easy sound, and kind of a halfway sound is easier for a German speaker generally than making the sound. That's not to say Germans are somehow inherently worse at taking on our language, because when we English speakers start speaking German, we often have trouble with some of their sounds. So the most notorious sound, the most famous sound in German that most English speakers dislike is the CH sound, the sound. So if you're speaking like Swiss German, it'll be like horrible and really rough in your throat. But in normal German, people just sound like they're saying something generally nice, like ich liebe dich. So if I said I love you, ich liebe dich, is kind of a hard sound for a lot of people when they first start. So English speakers will be like ick, because that sound back there we're not really used to. But you can actually learn to consciously control the way you're using your throat and your mouth if you get the right guidance and can take conscious control over the movement pattern. So if you need to make the sound, the way I was taught was to actually think about the word huge. So huge is a word that we use all the time. It's hugely popular. And you'll notice by saying huge, you're basically creating that sound that you might hear in German. It's really, really close. So if you can just use that analog, you can actually say ich. The only difference is we're used to hearing the sound on huge in the beginning. There are, that I can think of, there are just no instances in English of times where we would run into that sound on the end of a word. So in German you say ich or dich. In English, you just wouldn't hear that on the end. So we only hear it at the beginning. So when we try to use that movement pattern in the beginning of a word, we substitute, we compensate, and we say something like ick, because, ick, that sounds like a reasonable ending to a word. Ish doesn't sound like a reasonable ending to a word. So how does this all relate to the body? Again, it's about identifying what your unconscious habits are that affect your ability to move in a certain way. You go to pick things up in a certain way because that's just how it's always been done. What you want to do is identify movement patterns that are in some way harming you or in some way limiting your ability to perform at the level you want to perform at. Whether that means you are having trouble picking, groceries up out of the trunk, or whether that means you need to be able to pick up heavy boxes, or you want to pick up heavy weights, you want to really dial in on the way you're doing things and identifying the things that stop you. Maybe you're used to doing something, you're used to picking things up in one specific way, in one specific context, in a good way. And in another context, you actually use a totally different form that's not so useful. So you want to identify how you can take patterns that are good in one spot and see if those are also good in another spot. And if there's a movement pattern that's not efficient and useful for you in one activity, then change it. So hopefully the language thing serves as a useful metaphor and inroad for you, right? This is one of our most basic unconscious sets of patterns. And it's one that we can easily start to take control of, or semi-easily start to take control of. If you really want to, you can really take control of your mouth. You can really take control of the way you sound, if you are willing to put in the effort. And if you are willing to put in the effort for that, then it is also possible to put in the effort for the way you use your body. And I think it's well worth, I messed up. It's well worth your time to learn how to overcome your unconscious habits so that you can move better, feel better, look better, and be stronger. So I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope you remember that pain sucks, life shouldn't. So if you like this video, I ask you to please subscribe to my channel. I think you will like it. Did you do it? Okay, good. Thank you very much.